One of the great teams through the first 11 weeks of the 2023 season were the Philadelphia Eagles. Not so great down the stretch. Jalen Hurts explaining the status of the offense. 95% of it is new. Sims and I talked yesterday about how much more motion we can expect from the Eagles this year. They were worst in the league by way of pre-snap motion last year. Kellen Moore, then with the Chargers, was 8th in the league. We're going to have more of that. Move guys around. Get guys open. That way enhance their chances of finding a soft spot in the defense by confusing the defense and looking for those spots and doing creative things, not just line up and go run your pass route. That's how you get more out of an offense, and that's the direction the Eagles seem to be heading.
Yeah, and I think that's good, Mike. You know, Nick Sirianni called it a stale offense, Brian Johnson's offense, and it was because a lot that they didn't have the pre-snap motion, and they're going to have that this year, and I think that's going to give Jalen Hurts a better look at the defense, knowing what they're going to do. I think that's only going to help him going forward. So, you know, I like Kellen Moore, and I like his offensive system. Now, he's had some failures in the playoffs, obviously, but I like what he can do with Jalen Hurts. And I think this is going to be a better offense this year than what it was last year.
It can't be worse, especially down the stretch. It was stagnant. It felt like guys were freelancing. And, you know, at the end of the day, the more we see how much things have changed, it really is amazing Nick Sirianni survived. He's making dramatic overhaul. He was the guy in charge last year. The buck stops here. The offense was bad. Well, you're the head coach. Don't let it be bad. Don't let it stagnate. Where are you? You were a guy who got the job by virtue of your work as an offensive coordinator. Are you asleep at the switch offensively? It really is stunning that he's back after as bad as things got last year. And, you know, we'll see how much better it can get this year. Here's a little Jalen Hurts on adapting to the offense that Kellen Moore has brought to town.
This whole entire offseason, it's been about learning and taking in a new knowledge, new perspective, in the minds that we have in the room. And I think throughout the whole entire thing, that's kind of been the emphasis. You know, you get to a point where you kind of feel, hey, I'm gonna feel comfortable with this. I'm gonna like this, but that time comes where you can rep it later on. But you know, right now it's been a lot of new inventory in. Majority of it, you know, probably 95% of it being new. And so it's just been that process, and it's been a fun process because you get to see what works for other people. I think the goal coming in was to, you know, learn Kellen's offense and master it. And I think that's been a process, and I think by the end of it, I want it to be mine and have it in my own way.
Seems very relaxed and almost muted and restrained, not as excited. And look, it's a personality-driven thing, but when you watch, it's like, are you just saying what you think you have to say? Do you really believe it? Because he doesn't seem, you know, and whether you're in school or in a workplace, like some new change, something that is going to change 95% of what you do comes along, and they've explained it to you, and they've tried to get you on board with it. You can tell how on board someone is or isn't with it by how they talk about it. And again, it may just be his personality. He's very chill and relaxed, and I think he likes to exude that vibe. But I didn't get the sense he's all that excited about this. And I wonder at some level whether he's thinking, is this really what we needed to do? Do we really need to change that much? How much of this change is an indictment on me? How much of it is about, am I the next to be changed? Like, you know, is this, if I don't do this offense the way I'm supposed to, you're going to find somebody else to play quarterback. I didn't get the sense that he's as enthusiastic about a 95% change of the offense as you would maybe hope he would be.
Yeah, he wasn't real convincing in that. And I do think it's part of his personality, Mike. And Of course, we're reading the same things that, we're reading about some of the other quarterbacks around the NFL, that Kenny Pickett has looked better in practice. I don't care what they're doing in the underwear Olympics. This is the time, as you've pointed out over and over again, to get those bad plays out, to try things, to see what you can do. And so that's what he's doing in these practices. He's going to be the quarterback. We all know that Kenny Pickett is not going to start the first game for the Philadelphia Eagles unless Jalen Hurts is hurt. If he's healthy, he's going to be the starting quarterback, and he's going to be the starting quarterback this season. So, Kellen Moore needs to make sure he's on board and enthusiastic about this and all of that. But yes, he didn't sound like that when he was talking about the offense, but hopefully he is, and he's ready to go. He's had to adapt to many different offenses. He did it in college when he transferred from Alabama to Oklahoma, and he did just fine there. So I think Jalen Hurts is going to be just fine in this offense. Talk about upper thirds. This is going to be an upper third offense, Mike. They were last year 8th in total offense, 7th in points. Of course, they weren't as good as at the end of the year when they had that 1-6 slide. I get that, which is why Brian Johnson in there, which is why they've had so many changes. Nick Sirianni did hold on to his job, but Jalen Hurts is a quarterback. I think he's going to be really good in this offense. To me, the question becomes, how are they going to play in the postseason? That's my question. How is Kellen Moore going to do as a play caller in the postseason? How is Jalen Hurts going to play in the postseason? I do think they get to the postseason.
I agree entirely and completely, and I still think at some level, I was saying this as it was happening and after the season ended, I feel like there's a story that will never be told, or at least if it will be, it won't be anytime soon, about what really happened within the Eagles organization. There's two types of journalism in this space that we occupy. There's the stuff that they were going to announce anyway, and that's 95% or more of what you see on X. Stuff that is deliberately leaked to reporters in a coordinated effort before the announcement is made. That's really not journalism. Journalism's finding out what the hell happened when they don't want us to know what the hell happened. And something happened last year. It felt so intangible that it was tangible. You could sense it. And maybe it was just coaching dysfunction. I don't know. But that would be all the more reason for Jalen Hurts to be more excited. See, it was his good friend Brian Johnson that got thrown overboard, and they're changing everything. And how could you not take that personally at some point? How could you not take that personally? Any workplace you're in, whatever you're doing, you did it well enough to become one of the highest paid in the world at what you do. And after only 1 year, they're coming in and they're saying, you know what, we're going to change 95% of what we do. At what point you're going to say, well, is this about me? And he has to feel like he got traded. You're going from an offense that you knew well to something 95% different. You might as well have been traded under that assessment. And when he says he wants it to be mine and have it his own way, I hope that Kellen Moore agrees with that. This gets back to, we were talking about this earlier in the week with Micah Parsons and Mike Zimmer. Is there going to be a middle ground there where there's flexibility from the way the coach wants it to the way the player wants it? Is that going to be a source of friction, or is it going to be a source of consensus where it builds a stronger bond as these two work through whatever differences there might be in the margins to try to make sure the offense is as effective as it can possibly be? And that's on Kellen Moore too, but there has to be some willingness and flexibility for both guys to come together and find that spot in the middle where they have Kellen Moore's offense, but Jalen Hurts feels completely comfortable and confident about running it.
Yeah, Mike, I was thinking about this. We're going to talk about the Lions in a little bit, but always in the NFL, this year's team isn't last year's team. And it's that way for 32 teams. There's always a lot of change in the NFL, whether it's coaches, whether it's systems, whether it's coordinators, whether it's players, but you never have the same team every year. But this has been a lot of change for the Eagles, for a team that's been really good in recent years. This is a lot of change for them this year. So we'll see if it works. I think Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts both are under a lot of pressure this year to make this work. And a lot of it is going to depend on Kellen Moore's offense, on how good this team is going to be to keep their jobs going forward long term. It's going to be about this offense and whether Jalen Hurts is good in this offense, whether Kellen Moore calls good plays and they come, as you said, Mike, to some compromise in the middle that makes Jalen Hurts a better quarterback. I really do think that a lot about this team depends on that. Otherwise, I think you're probably going to see a new head coach next season. This is a team that should win that division. When you look on paper at what these teams have done in the offseason, the Commanders have gotten better, but they have a rookie quarterback. The Cowboys have done nothing to get better. They've gotten worse. The Giants, they're the same team they were. They didn't change anything at quarterback. So this is a team to me that looks like it should win the division. If they don't win the division, then there's going to be even more changes for next year, I would expect.
Oh, there's going to be a new head coach next year if they don't get it together this year. And I really do think that as we talk about and process these changes, I think it was closer than anyone realizes. This falls into the category of things they don't want us to know. I don't think they ever wanted us to know and never want us to know how close Nick Sirianni came to being ex-head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.